proud to present two of our very own mentors, Rafay and Cindy. So let's give them a virtual round of applause, everybody. Right. So our topic of today is a career in marketing. Now, the purpose of this webinar is to provide career insights into the marketing world, and more specifically, what are the skills needed to excel in this field, right? So if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in the Zoom chat box, or if you're feeling shy, don't worry, you can direct the message to me and I'll be sure to bring them up during the Q&A section. All right, so before we begin with today's webinar, is it possible to have everyone to turn on their camera so that I can take a really quick group photo, right? I can see Faraheen is adjusting her hair, trying to look pretty. Don't worry, Faraheen, you look amazing. All right. Yeah, so everyone, don't be shy. Turn on your camera and we'll take a very quick group photo. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, everyone is slowly turning on their camera. Okay. All right, so do we have more people to turn on their camera? No? All right. So I'll begin, yeah? So everyone look into your camera and smile. 1, 2, 3. Amazing, I've got it. Everyone looking amazing, right? Okay. Right. So before we begin, right, with the real content of today's webinar, I will just briefly walk through everyone on how the flow is going to be like. So it is going to be, so we have a few important questions that I will be asking both Rafay and Cindy, right? And they will be providing their very own insights to the questions. And it will be followed by a section of Q&A where you guys can ask your own personal questions in the chat box and I'll bring them up, yeah? Okay, so that is it, right? Okay, so let's begin. So I've introduced myself. Now, can I have both of our speakers to briefly introduce themselves, what background they're coming from, and how did they join the marketing field, right? Rafay, why don't you go first?
Okay, I'll go first. First of all, thank you so much for switching your cameras on. Whenever I'm watching a webinar, I'm usually in bed. You know, it takes me time to get out of bed and just prepare myself and open the camera. But thank you for switching it on and making the effort to be present. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you can get something out of this webinar. If you have any questions, reach out to us. But going back to the question, who am I and what have I done to be here and speaking with you guys is, I actually started off with graduating in a bachelor's, with a bachelor's in marketing and human resources. I was really into human resources, and then I got in touch with marketing, and I was like, okay, there is a connection there. There is always a connection when it comes to humans and marketing. So it intrigued me significantly, and then eventually I went on and did my MBA. I was a part of ISEC. I don't know if there is anybody here who has been a part of ISEC or is a part of ISEC now. Only one person. Okay, not bad. ISEC can do better, and I hope it is doing better. But yeah, I've been a part of ISEC, and you know, they say once ISEC, always an ISEC, and a lot of those values, qualities, wisdom that we have had from ISEC, we implement a lot of that in Mindvalley too, of course, with a different tone and set. I have, before even doing my master's, I was super into entrepreneurship and I wanted to start my own small thing, and I did. My first company was in 2011. I was super young, but I was super excited, super enthusiastic whilst I was doing my bachelor's. And that was just a life changer for me, because I could understand the world in a very different way. That was my first company in 2011, which was actually an event management company, because I used to be a part of ISEC and I was also a student council, a member of a student council, and that's how I got into events, and then that was my first venture. After that, I joined a multinational in Pakistan. I was not a cultural fit for that at all. I couldn't do multinational at all. So I stayed there for a year, and then I was like, okay, I gotta find something that suits me. What did I do? I found an internship through ISEC. Okay, guys, if you don't know ISEC, go check it out. Find an internship through ISEC. That was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I came to Malaysia with an internship. It was a 1 year internship, and then I actually joined full time, and I stayed there for 3 years. So I was working as a marketing sales and marketing manager in a startup in Malaysia, and after 3 years I started my own company, which was also on the marketing space. And this was an agency which actually made me a T-shaped marketeer, which I'll talk about later if we have time. And then eventually I joined Mindvalley. What I'm doing right now is basically I'm leading a subscriptions team. It is also an acquisition and retention team within Mindvalley. And if you know Mindvalley, you would know we have a flagship product called Mindvalley Membership. That's what I lead there, the acquisition and retention part of it. I hope this suffices.
All right, thank you very much, Rafay. So, it's really glad to hear that there's an ISECer in the room. I was once a very active ISECer as well, and I was always talking about it to everyone. So it's amazing to hear that, we have an ISEC legend here, right? All right, thank you very much for your very extensive introduction, Rafay. So can we move on to Cindy? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy. So I'm actually a law graduate turned marketer. I've had stints in a fair bit of industry. The first one is a travel industry, where I was actually part of the Tune Hotels Group under AirAsia. And then I've moved on to the financial industry, where I spent about 7 years in the financial industry. And last but not least, my last stint prior to my current role was actually in the telco industry with the very famous Huawei Technologies. So during my stint with Huawei, it was actually at the very height of the misunderstanding between Huawei and USA. So that was actually a very, very interesting, I would say, phase of my professional career, probably the most interesting. And then after 12 years on the client side of the business, I made the leap of faith into the agency line with Universal McCann, IPG Media Brands, where I currently am. So picking up digital was by far the best decision I've ever made in my life. And I picked it up purely with passion.
Right. Thank you so much, Cindy. That's really great to hear. Wow. So you are a lawyer turned marketer. That is very amazing, right? So it's amazing to hear that someone who is of a different background turning into a marketing professional. Yeah, I'm sure you provide a lot of amazing insights during this webinar. Thank you so much, Cindy. Okay, so we've gone through the introduction. Let us get to our very first question, right? So let's start off with, what is the marketing industry like, right? Could you share about what are the popular branches of marketing and what is the job scope like in marketing, in the marketing industry? Maybe Cindy, you can start first.
Sure. So as far as I'm concerned, in marketing industry, there actually is only two major legs to it, right? The first part is creative, right? The creative arm of marketing, where you come up with creative ideas, you come up with creative content, you come up with very big scale kind of a brand A level kind of a campaign ideas and strategy. And then we have media. So media essentially is where you pump money behind certain content, certain ideas to amplify the ideas. But media is actually broken down into the paid media, the owned media, and the earned media. So technically, if you ask me, when it comes to marketing industry, there is only twofold, I can say. There's only twofold you can get into. It's either the creative portion or the media portion. Yeah, so I mean, Rafay, what do you think?
In Mindvalley, we look at marketing in a different scope. And since I see a lot of the young adults here, if you can Google T-shaped marketeer, T-shaped, that is what we look at as a full spectrum. So what is a T-shaped marketeer? There are a few areas where you can focus on, and then you pick one area and then go deeper into it. It can be copywriting, it can be video, it can be funnel marketing, it can be customer experience, it can be data and analytics. So marketing actually comprises of each and every element that we have in a T-shaped marketeer. And if you look at that T, the top T is basically understanding the scope of different elements. Like we can talk about behavioral psychology, storytelling, data and analytics, design, UX, branding and positioning, and research. So all of these six elements, you can go deeper into it and pick one of the things that you really like. So like, for instance, I had the understanding of all of those six elements, and then I went deeper and deeper and deeper. So you make yourself an expert, right? You can make yourself an expert in funnel marketing, as Cindy mentioned. You can make yourself an expert in media buying, how to do it, proficiently. So it's like, medicine. Medicine has different things. You can talk about ear, nose, leg, bones, etc., etc. And that is basically a GP. But when you become a specialist, that's when the game changes. So that's why you got to pick the field you are more interested in, and then go deeper into it. And that's what makes you that's what gives you an edge. You become a specialist. And today the market is of specialists, not generalists, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful message, right? Especially for young people who are looking into the marketing workforce. So it does sound like marketing is quite, it's like a huge tree, right? With plenty of branches, and it really depends on the interest of where you want to specify into, right? So, all right, that will lead me to ask the third question, which is, now we all know that, pandemic is gradually dying, we hope, right? So can we know, like, what kind of career opportunities in the marketing field are still available right now that are, high in demand, and they're available especially during tough times like this? Yeah, maybe Rafay, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Mainly it's paid media. How can you learn about Facebook ads, Google ads? I think that is one of the things that we are looking for personally. Other than that, funnel marketeers or performance marketeers. Besides that, look at each and every field. Like, it goes back to the thing that I was saying earlier. You got to specialize in literally any of the fields, and you'll be in demand, period. You can start with a project manager and start learning these nitty-gritties on how to do, media buying, how to create content that engages with you, how to do SEO, etc., etc. You can start with being a generalist, and get roles like project management, get roles where you are doing a lot of product marketing. These roles at the moment are easy to find, but when you are in those roles, you got to go deeper and become a specialist, and that's where your demand increases.
All right, so from
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Sorry, Sitting. Is there something you would like to say?
No, don't worry. Please proceed. I was about to pass the floor to you. Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with what Rafay mentioned. And very interesting, because Rafay went very in-depth as to, the really in-depth level of what marketing consists. It's not just, like big ideas and stuff like that, but essentially in every single role that plays a part that contributes towards the overall marketing umbrella. But what I'd like to highlight is that actually right now, and even more so now, more than ever before, marketing actually plays a very, very big and huge role in businesses, whether it's big brands or whether it's SMEs. Even more so now, brands are actually taking marketing to the next level, and even agencies, right? Agencies are constantly hiring. But again, like what Rafay mentioned, we are looking to hire specialists. We're not looking to hire generalists. But that doesn't mean that when you start, especially for fresh graduates out there, it doesn't mean that when you start, you have to be really, really good at something. But you could actually try learning or identify a specific section that you would like to have growth in and actually start from the base. And then eventually you map and you learn and you grow into becoming a specialist in that sector. Then you become a very, very high in demand kind of talent, especially in 2022. There will definitely be a very, very high focus in e-commerce, right, Rafay? I mean, correct me if you don't think the same, but definitely in 2022, there will be a huge boom in e-commerce. And when we talk about e-commerce, it's not just about setting up a store on Lazada and Shopee for that matter, right? It's about thinking, how do we position this specific brand, to the consumer at large? How do we run ads behind it? How do we come up with strategy? What are the, ad copies that we can curate for the store? What are the SEO behind the store in Lazada and Shopee? So all of these elements actually are different group of job opportunities within the marketing sector. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. So I guess we've all got the hint that, from Rafay, he mentioned that paid media is quite a high demand marketing job. And from Cindy, e-commerce, right? Definitely, we all know that e-commerce is a blooming industry. And if anyone who is interested to go into the marketing workforce, I think e-commerce is a good place to start. And both of you have given your advice, right? So because marketing is such a huge branch, it has.
Before you go there, Sheeting,
Yes.
just want to add one thing here. So not only paid, and I'm sure not only, any specific role, anything to do with social media, right? Anything to do with internet right now is booming, right? Anything to do with internet right now is booming because everything is moving online and everything will keep moving online, and every element that touches online becomes the niche. So one example that I would like to give is that SEO experts at the moment, they are so high in demand because not everybody is an SEO expert. Marketing techies, so high in demand because they are like unicorns. Subscription experts like unicorns. So honestly, if you look at the industry right now, there are so many roles open. Honestly, if you go to LinkedIn and check the roles, you'll be able to see most of them are digital. Why is that so? Because everything is moving there, and we got to make sure that we are prospering with that, and keep learning on what are the elements that involves marketing. That's why I brought in T-shaped marketing model, because you get a holistic idea on what you can learn and then go deeper into what actually excites you. Is it writing? Is it copywriting? Is it media buying? Is it making an epic video which can get millions of views? Anything works, but you got to know what you're comfortable with. You got to know what interests you the most. Interest is the thing that you got to find. Eventually you succeed in whatever you do and become a specialist in that.
Right, thank you, Rafay. And I believe, once you have discovered your interest, it really requires the resilience and the patience to go through the process in order to succeed in to become the specialist that you want to be in the marketing, right? Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so now we know that, these are the high demand career opportunities in the marketing. So can we get to know, like, what are the personality types or skills required to enter the marketing industry? And, as a fresh grads, which I believe most of our audience today are, quite young, and most of them could be fresh graduates. What do you think are the skill sets that as a fresh grads they need to improve on? Cindy, would you like to, what would be your opinion on this? Yep.
I think what I'm about to say next would actually bring a smile to Zoe's face, because Zoe is actually my mentee on Future Lab and she's here in the call today. So I've actually been stressing to Zoe about the fact that I am a firm believer that any skill sets in marketing can actually be taught and they can be learned. Yeah. But what I cannot teach, or what Rafay cannot teach you, is your personality. A lot of the time, especially when I conduct interviews, I would usually ask open-ended questions. And these open-ended questions aren't exactly to gauge your capability, because you are a fresh graduate, right? I would expect you to come in wanting to learn specific skills, but I will not expect you to come in already equipped with specific experience. I know you're a freshie. I know you have zero experience under your belt, and I know that I am expected to help you to grow, right? But what is important is whether you have a personality of wanting to learn, of being open to make mistakes and being open to learn from your mistakes. Now, that is actually very, very, very important for any employer for that matter.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Cindy. That's very useful advice, right? How about you, Rafay? What would be your take on this?
My take on this is that the personality types for marketing is that personality type which is persistent. I'm not going to go to the 12 personality types that we have. Not at all. Each and every personality type can be a part of marketing and can do marketing, until and unless you have that persistence and adaptability, and you want to grow, and you have that mindset where you're eager to learn literally anything that's been thrown to you. And when you become a specialist, that's what you start going towards, because you have that basic learning of how is behavioral psychology working, how is this working, how is that working, what is the copywriting skill that you need, etc., etc. If you have that persistence and that willingness to grow and that hunger to grow, you can literally do anything. It's just not marketing. I'm talking about literally anything. If you want to fly a plane tomorrow, if you have persistence, you can do it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's very interesting, right? Because we always think that marketing is an industry where you need to communicate with people a lot. Like you need to kind of be an extrovert, right? So are introverts suitable to become a marketeer?
Rafay, you want to go first?
Absolutely. I think I'm not generalizing anything. I'm not going to generalize. But no matter what you are, I've seen introverts making $1 million sales, right in front of my eyes, $1 million sales. And, it's hard. Like it's said that it's hard for introverts to, reach out and do sales. But I have seen people doing that, many, many people doing that. And for marketing, marketing is multi-tiered. You can be an expert in copywriting, you can be an expert in ads, you can be an expert in anything, SEO, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Trust me, that is it. Like I don't want to add on to more to it, but my view is it doesn't matter.
All right, that's
Cindy.
very good to hear, right? That introverts are allowed to become a marketeer too. What do you think, Cindy? Do you agree with Rafay?
I always like to say that I am actually an introverted extrovert. So it's like, I need my people around me, but at the same time, once I'm out for a specific period of time, I want to get home and be cocooned in my own little space, right? So I always believe that as a person, there is always an introverted side and there's always an extroverted side of every single person, right? It just depends on what you're passionate about and what you want to do. So if you get someone that is super interested in reading to talk about reading, then this introvert person will automatically becomes an extrovert and would be so open to sharing about, his or her passion in books. And, for example, Rafay, if you talk to Rafay about his plants and his cats, by the way, Rafay would automatically, have that shine in his eyes and he would be so open to be talking about his cats, right? So it's actually the same thing with marketing and for any career for that matter. Like what Rafay rightly put it earlier, it depends on where it's that passion point that you find in your specific career or in the stream of the career that you want to grow into, and really follow that passion point. Because the moment you're talking about something you're passionate with, then naturally, no matter how introverted you are, you will be an extrovert.
Yeah, I really totally agree with both of your viewpoints. So like this is a very strong message to everyone out there, right? So, if you're passionate about something, if you would like to become a marketeer, it really doesn't matter whether, you're introverted or you're extroverted, but what's most important is that you have the eagerness to strive and also to grow, right? To learn as well, even though you are not coming from a marketing background, but it is possible for you to step into the industry.
Also, just to correct one misconception is that not all marketing roles require you to face a lot of people. There are a lot of marketing roles that actually allows you to sit just behind the desk and behind the laptop and actually do your work. So for example, we have SEO and UI UX that don't actually require you to go and meet the client and things like that. You can actually work with the existing business teams to work on whatever project you have. Then there's also analytics that only requires you to work with your direct team member. So not all marketing roles require you to really go out there and put yourself out there.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much. That's a very good misconception to clear off, I believe. Okay. So I guess that would lead us to the next question, which is very related to Cindy, right? Because the next question would be, how can someone from an entirely different field pursue a career in marketing? Now, we all know that, it is important to have that eagerness to grow and to learn if you want to be able to excel in marketing. But what do you think can be a good stepping stone for someone to pivot their career into the marketing world? Maybe Rafay, you want to go first before Cindy?
I think Cindy should go first. She has done it. Absolutely. I think she should go first.
Thank you very much. Well, when I was a law student, I've always thought that, I just want to be the hotshot lawyer that wins all the cases that was handed down to me, right? So when I first started working in a legal firm after graduating and things like that, and I'm like, okay, I'm actually living my dream. But a year into being in the legal field, I started feeling like, okay, maybe what I thought was my dream might not actually be my dream after all, right? So I think one of the things when a person is pivoting from a different field of study or a different career into another career is actually the fear of whether they would actually be making mistake, of whether this is actually the right decision for them to do. Because I had that fear, and that fear probably was the biggest concern at the point where I thought about pivoting my career. So what I did was I actually took I would say the safe way out, and I actually took up a job that doesn't involve where I want to go, but it's not where I was. So I actually went into customer service, right? I thought, okay, you know what? I will take up something that is like a neutral space, but doesn't require me to bring back a lot of work, so that I can really take this opportunity to sit and think about whether my decision to pivot my role is a good one, right? And if it's not, I can always go back to practicing, right? Because I've already had my license. I have nothing to lose. So when I actually spent about 2 years working in a customer service call center for Federal Express. And in that 2 years, I also took the opportunity to really look into digital marketing. So I started with SEO because I was a very avid blogger back then. So I started my blog, I looked into SEO, how to optimize the websites. And then slowly, that's where Friendster started dying off and Facebook came about. And that's where we started pivoting into more of social media marketing. Then I come across people that creates really, really interesting content. So that really piqued my interest. And I started going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into understanding the ecosystem of social media. So actually my first role came about because of my blog. So someone in the financial sector actually found my blog and found my Facebook page and thought that I curate very interesting content. So then I was actually offered a role as a social media manager, right? And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to give this a try. I have nothing to lose, right? So I took on that role. And when I took on that role, I realized like, oh my goodness, there is way more to marketing than just writing something, than just curating content, right? So then I started picking up and I started, making friends with people in the industry, especially those that are working in an agency atmosphere, because they know a lot more things than just social media, right? Then eventually I go in deeper and deeper and deeper until I found my calling in data-driven media buying. So that's when I'm like, this is my sweet spot. So I think the reason why I'm sharing this is the fact that sometimes taking a leap into something that you are totally not familiar with can be very daunting, can be very scary. But think about what is the worst that can happen. You can always go back to where you were. But if you don't take this opportunity to try something new that you wanted to try, you will never know.
Wow, that is really amazing. Yeah, so I guess from your advice is really just taking the leap of faith, right? Taking your very first step to create something, and something good will happen follow from there, right? So it's to be, the advice here is to be brave and to be bold and trust yourself and just really to take the first step. Yeah.
But you need to really know what you want, though, not just go in with a blindfold. You need to be really clear about what you want and where you want to be. Rafay, what do you think?
Yes, Rafay, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly what I wanted to add, Cindy, what you mentioned literally, because you are doing something and you want to move towards something, right? So let's say if I'm a doctor today, tomorrow I want to become a marketeer. First of all, that is a calling, right? How do you get that calling? You start learning about different things that are outside in the market and you see what interests you. So let's say if I'm super active on Instagram, super active in writing blogs, etc., I know that my interest lies on digital, right? When I have figured out my interest, that is number one step. Second thing is learning about my interest, right? Then I go in, learn literally whatever there is about marketing, watch videos, read books, listen to podcasts, do all of that, and then see that if you still like it, if you're still interested in that, then you start, also socializing and networking with these people. Third step, start networking with peers who are in marketing, because whatever you're reading, is it actually true? What is it like to be on ground? And you can speak with peers, teachers, anybody who is in marketing or any other field, and you get to know a lot more and more and more. Once you have that, then it becomes easy for you to make that decision, because you have that base. And it all starts with learning. It all ends in learning, always, right? You start with learning about what is it that you're interested in. Then you start learning about the subject matter itself, marketing. What is there in marketing? What are the things that I actually like? You start doing it a little bit, because you have all the tools available online. You start doing that. You start networking with the right kind of people which are in the same market, and then eventually you make that pivot. Always remember, learn and not be hasty. Never be hasty. And that's what Cindy did, right? She started learning about it first. She did not just jump right into marketing. No, she was doing it on ground and learning on ground. That is the best kind of learning that you can have.
Right. So do your research, right? know what you want to get into and do your research. And then
Do your
you
research, learn,
learn.
network.
Network, yes, very important. All right, thank you very much. That's a very strong advice. So the next question is, so this is not really much like a career insight, right? But it's more of a
Sorry,
fun question. Yes,
I
sorry.
think Shu Hui have a question. She asked what if you are unclear about direction? So Rafay, do you want to pick this up?
Yeah, I hope I could clear this out with my answer. If you're unclear about direction, you have to dive deeper into what really interests you. You know, you gotta find what really is, you know, that you want to do eventually. You know, what is it that interests you eventually? And if there is a strong interest, and you know, we always say this: if you can do something the entire night and you do not want to sleep, that is what interests you, you know. But that is an extreme. If there is some kind of variation to that, you know, if you're miserable in the current job and you're just looking to get out, that is not that shouldn't be the motivation at all, you know. So try to find yourself first. I know it's easier said than done, but the more you learn, read, research, talk to people, the more you start, you know, finding where you fit. Yeah, I hope it answers your question. If it doesn't, Cindy is still here.
Yeah, Cindy, you can go. You can take the floor if you would like to answer the question.
I always believe that, you know, especially when you are at a slightly younger age, you might not be very clear that, okay, look, this is exactly the industry I want to be in, right? And that's not wrong, because you potentially have two different directions you want to go in, right? Like what Rafay mentioned earlier, he was actually much more interested in HR, and then he discovered marketing, right? So it's actually not wrong for you to figure out, maybe you want to give another industry a try first and see if that fits what you're looking for. If that doesn't fit what you're looking for, then you could opt to go into your plan B, which potentially could be marketing. And then after trying out both, then you can actually make a decision for yourself, right? Do not take a career like, okay, you'll make this decision, you have to stick with it for the next 50 years. It's not like that, right? You can always grow into something. So like I mentioned earlier, right? In terms of marketing, it is not rocket science. It's just mathematics and some principles that can be taught. So even if you started off somewhere and midway you decided like you want to go into marketing, it doesn't matter. You can always pick up marketing. You can always learn marketing. It's just whether you want to or not.
All right, thank you very much, Cindy. Yeah, so we have one more participants coming in. Okay, so with that, I think we're reaching the Q&A session really soon. So anyone who wants to ask their questions, feel free to put it into the chat box and we'll definitely answer them after this one last question, right? Or if you're shy, you can definitely direct the message to me as well. So to end this webinar, my last question is, what will be your final advice for people or young grads or even young professionals who wants to enter the marketing industry? What would be your final advice? Rafay, maybe?
Get a mentor, guys. Period.
That's right. Yeah, Rafay is a mentor of Future Lab. So if you're interested to hear from him, book a session with him. Yeah. Is that your advice? Is that your only advice?
Yeah, absolutely. I think mentors help significantly. I found that they're extremely late, and I had to do a lot of iterations. We call it A/B testing and split testing in marketing. But you have to do that, right? Either you get that wisdom from somebody else, or you walk that path and find that wisdom yourself. So I would really suggest, like, especially the age that you guys are in, get a mentor, man. I mean, honestly, I'm here just because I really want to serve. I really want to, because I couldn't get that when I was younger. And I would want to be an example where I could probably shed off a few years, of iterations that you might have to do, or Cindy or any other mentor, literally any other mentor that you get influence from, just go to them, ask them, talk to them, and understand, how they can support your growth, because it's everybody's different, everybody's direction is different. Until unless you don't share your experiences, you can't get the advice that you need.
Love that advice. Get a mentor. Very useful. Cindy, what about you?
Since Rafay have already covered the most, interesting part, I would actually go with it's perfectly okay to make mistakes. This is something I would like to share with fresh graduates, especially when you enter the workforce for the very first time in your life. Your very first mistake would cause palpitations. It would make you feel really scared, really worried. Oh, how big is this mistake? Like, you would be really, really scared. But it is perfectly okay to make mistakes. At the end of the day, everyone makes mistakes. It doesn't matter if you're a fresh graduate or if you have let's not talk about age, but let's talk about the number of work experience we have, right? Like, even if you have 12 years of work experience like me, right? It is okay to make mistakes, and we still make mistakes up until today. There is no single person that knows exactly 100% of whatever you are doing. No one. So everyone learns from each other's strength, and everyone help each other to improve on the weaknesses. So again, it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah, and I really agree with that, because many people nowadays are very afraid to make a mistake, right? Especially young people. So yeah, that's a very good, inspiring advice. Yeah, so I guess that would be the last questions for the webinar. And right now we'll move on to the Q&A session, right? So I've received a few private messages as they are a bit shy. Okay, I will start off with the first one. Okay, so one of the participants asked, right, what if I have multiple interests like writing, photography, designing? And she understands that being a jack of many trades is very important. So how does she become a specialist in one if she does have multiple interests where she is comfortable with? Rafay or Cindy, who would like to go first?
Either it's Cindy's call.
Rafay, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, I don't know the name of the participant, but honestly, if you're listening, I used to be the same. I love designing. Photoshop, I've done it so long. Premiere Pro, I've made videos. You can find my YouTube as well. I have done digital marketing, etc. The thing is, you eventually find what is that one thing that keeps you going. I think it's more that the more you do it, the more you get exposed to it, right? You can't keep doing everything all at once, but you will need all of these skills to become the top tier of the t-shirt market that I was talking about. All of these skills that you're talking about, they're all entrepreneurial skills. You are not supposed to be shy from exploring other fields, other interests. Not at all. Keep exploring them, keep getting it, because it's like a workout, right? If you play squash, I'm playing squash these days, so I'm taking the example. If you play squash a lot, it won't just make you good in squash. It will also make you good in any other racket game. You can become a bit better on tennis. Your legs will become stronger. So it's like, the more you're exposed with different skills, the more your mindset opens up. And I would say to keep exploring, keep trying. You'll find your niche. You don't have to be scared or shy away from exploring more. Not at all. Keep exploring. Keep doing what you're doing, and then it'll pay off. I can assure you that. And eventually, you'll find your specialization too.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure the participant hear you loud and clear. Sorry, I see Cindy has something to say. Please go on.
So I think one of the things I wanted to really stress is the fact that choosing one of your interests doesn't mean you have to give up on your other interests, right? So that's one thing that you really, really need to understand. assuming if you have 3 different interests and you made a career out of one of them, you could always pursue photography, for example, right? As a part-time thing that you're doing, like something that you're passionate about, you can actually start your photography Instagram, for example. So you have a full-time job that you're passionate about, but you also have your hobbies that you're also passionate about so that's what I wanted to share. You don't need to give up the other 2 passions that you have because you chose one. And that's very important.
Yep. Let me also add an example there, right? So let's say you're good in photography, you're good in design, you're good in copy. Okay, you love to write, you love to take pictures, you love to design. And imagine you're sitting in a position of an advertiser, right? And you see this banner or an ad asset that comes to you. Now, if you are good with copy, you will immediately go in and be like, we got to change the copy on this banner. If you know design, you'll be like, okay, we got to improve the design here and there. It doesn't really speak. The main thing doesn't pop up. We got to make sure that it pops up. If you do photography, if there's a picture there, you'll be like, okay, maybe this angle is not good. We got to try another angle. Literally, all the skills that you have, all the interests that you have will be usable, because marketing is what? Marketing is communication with humans, literally, period. Communication with literally me and you. If you know how to communicate, if you really understand what's written in the ad, you're a great marketeer. You can literally crack the code. And that is what sets people apart. If you become too operational, too systematic, if you think that, okay, we got to play with the systems, no, it's communication. You got to communicate with humans, not systems. So explore your interest, become better and better and better at what you do, what you like. It will pay off. It will pay off, unless you're a doctor. I mean, even then, it can pay off. I can assure you. You can market your clinic and whatnot. I've seen a lot of the doctors doing that. So don't stop yourself from exploring other interests at all.
Yes, I totally agree with that, right? So many people have different interests nowadays. Like most of us have a full-time job, yet we have a passion project or side income job. Yeah, so that's really amazing. Yeah. Okay, so the next question. So one of the participants asked, right, can Rafay and Cindy share about what their day-to-day work is like in your own specific roles? Yeah, she's curious to know. Maybe Cindy can start first.
Oh, so in my current role, because I head a team of 15, so my day-to-day involves actually spending time with individual people in my team, because they all have specific brand and portfolio under their care, right? So a lot of the time, I would actually sit together with the team and we would review some of the recommendation and plans, as well as challenges for specific clients, right? So for example, one of our biggest client is actually a fast food brand. Okay, so I will not reveal what is this fast food brand, but it's essentially something that's super finger licking good. So for this specific brand, right, occasionally we will have very big scale campaigns and things like that. So we would then sit down and huddle and think about what is the most interesting way we can make that product interesting to customers once again, right? Because everyone knows the brand and everyone in some time or another have consumed this product, right? So how do you make a brand that is so well known to everyone interesting again? So that's what we usually do. We will sit down, we will huddle, we will come up with interesting idea on how we can actually, take this out to the consumers and how we can amplify it. So that's the fun part of the industry. But then there's also the more process-oriented part, like, the paperwork, as well as coming up with the PowerPoint slides and, the data mining, the data churning, because it's an industry that's very, very reliant on data. Data is something that is a fact. It cannot lie. It is not an assumption. It is not a number that you pull out of the cloud. Right? It's a fact. So there's a lot of data mining. So those are the things that are a little bit more on the paperwork portion of the work that I'm currently doing. Over to you, Rafay.
My everyday is different, guys. Literally, every single day is extremely different. Just because the role that I'm in, and also the people that I work with, I literally work with every single one of the people we have in Mindvalley, just because I'm working in acquisition, which means that we have one product and we want to make sure that we market it to the audience and we get more and more members. How to make that happen and get those members who actually fit the customer profile, right? Because we don't want to get customers who might not fit and eventually get churned off. And the second part of my job role is basically retention. Want to make sure that the company is customer centric, the product is customer centric. It's giving what was shared when we were doing acquisition, if we are delivering on the promise or not. And that just changes entirely on how we see marketing. It's not about just sell. It's about, are we giving value? And that's why my days are entirely different. But the one thing that's consistent is that the first thing that I do is look at numbers, look at data, look at what is happening, what has changed, what has worked, what hasn't, what are the tests that have worked, what are the tests that did not work, and what did we learn from there and how to optimize from there. And then we have multiple brainstorms, we have multiple working meetings, we have multiple strategy meetings. So it's about need of the hour. It's about need of the hour. We are not reactive, we are very proactive. That's why always there is something that's we are doing differently. We are testing, we are trying, and making sure that our strategy becomes super aligned. May it be branding, may it be acquisition, may it be retention. But if you want, I can share with you my calendar. That helps significantly.
All right. Oh my God, it's really cool to hear that both of you have such a different day-to-day job scope, right? Even though both of you are marketeers. Yeah. Okay, so we have a participant. His name is Siu Hong. So he's asking, in your opinions, what will the marketing industry evolve in the next 5 to 10 years? Any specific fields, or technology, or skills, or platform people should look into it moving forward from now? Maybe Cindy, you can go first.
I may sound very biased saying this because it's my core, I would say it's the core thing of what I do, but definitely in terms of e-commerce is something that is here to stay, especially since COVID. It has accelerated the growth of e-commerce. I mean, maybe, can I have a show of hands of everyone in this call who have opened up either Shopee or Lazada in the last 7 days? Exactly. That's what I'm talking about, right? Like, purely today, I've opened it up twice. Okay, first to shop and first to check where my parcels are, right? So because of this behavior, because of COVID, it has accelerated the way people like just you and I are consuming digital and consuming how we are purchasing things. I even buy my groceries on app. Now, I don't even go to grocery store these days, not Vans, not Village Grocer. I buy everything either on Panda Mart, either on Happy Fresh, or, even Grab. They have specific section that delivers fresh seafood and fresh, meat, this kind of stuff. So consumer behavior are definitely changing. And because it's gearing towards the growth of the metaverse and how we are buying things online. So definitely the digital aspect as well as the e-commerce aspect of things is definitely booming. From 2022 onwards, you will already see a very, very big shift. And also another thing that we should really look out for is the boom of mobile app marketing. The amount of hours you spend on your mobile device is probably more than the amount of hours you close your eyes and sleep at night. So definitely this thing is growing. Yeah. So Rafay?
Yeah, adding on to what Cindy said, of course, e-commerce is one of the biggest. To me, I might be biased towards it because I'm really looking into it these days. And also, it's extremely high in demand, and it will be, even the next 3, 5, or 10 or 15 years, is marketing technology. Marketing technology is something that is just changing the game, because your product becomes your app or your web product becomes a product itself or a service itself, and then you can how can you optimize that as per your customers, right? And you heard two terms here. One is marketing, one is tech, right? And they are literally two different fields, but if you merge them together, you just become such a unicorn where you are extremely high in demand, because literally every other company is looking for that. Every other company is moving towards that. Like what you see on Lazada right now, there is definitely a marketing tech guy at the back end who's saying that, okay, these banners here, no, these products here, no, maybe you can put them here, maybe you should pays the price here, maybe you have to have a UX which is a bit different. All of the UX is, user experience, user interface, all of these things make that particular role. And I was listening to this this YouTube talk, which inspired me significantly. Is if you look at a bear, okay, if you look at a bear, it's just a bear. You look at a bear and you'll be like, okay, it's a bear, right? And if you look at a tricycle, you'll see and you'll be like, okay, it's just a tricycle. But if you put them together, if you put them together, there'll be a crowd of people looking at a bear on a tricycle, right? These are like, that is marketing tech. When you combine these two things together, you become that important. You become that important just because two different fields and you're merging it together. And that is what real marketing is: user experience, user interface. How is everything is becoming customer centric. You cannot go away from a customer. You cannot just acquire customers again and again and again. It won't work out. There is a limit to everything. How can you give that experience on tech, on your product, on anything that you do, is what marketing tech person does. And super high in demand, super high in demand. Marketing tech subscriptions, super high in demand.
Can definitely feel the energy and oomph from both of you when you talk about e-commerce and digital marketing. It's amazing. So I have a question that is directed to Rafay specifically. So what characteristics does Mindvalley look for when hiring new talents?
Depends on the role, actually. If you're talking solely marketing, it also depends on what role are you applying for, because we literally have all the T-shaped marketing fields within Mindvalley, and we are pivoting towards more and more subscription, because Mindvalley started off with the transactional company. Now we are almost 90% subscription. So we are looking for people in literally all these fields. So I can't really, pinpoint that these are the characteristics, but it depends on what kind of position you're interested in. So if you can put that in the chat, I can probably give you a more in-depth answer.
Right. So for that participant, if you're interested to enter Mindvalley, please do book Rafay on Future Lab and you'll get to know more, right? All right. So for the additional questions, I think I will email them personally to Cindy and Rafay so that both of you can reply to the email and I will direct it to the participant. Yeah. Okay, so I guess this will be the end of our webinar session. Thank you very much, Rafay and Cindy, for providing such amazing and useful insights into the marketing world. This is really amazing. I'm really happy to have both of you on board today. Please give yourself another round of virtual applause, right? Okay, so right before we leave, is it okay if we take a final group photo, since I noticed that more people actually jump into the session halfway through. So can I have everyone, hopefully, to turn on your camera so we can take another round of group photo? Right. Some people are still shy, I guess, but that's okay. All right. Okay, so is this everyone? No other people? All right, for this group photo, maybe you can do like a thumbs up. Yeah, all right, great. Okay, I will not do it because I have to take a photo. Okay, all right, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. All right, so last message to all the participants of the today's webinar. Please do search for Rafay and Cindy on Future Lab and book them for mentorship session if you would like to chat with them a bit more about marketing and what are the skills needed to become a good marketeer. All right. So yeah, thank you very much and hope to see you all again. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.